Yeah. Hi all, welcome to another session of mock interviews with Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. So I'm a technical architect at MNC. I'm 18x certified. I'm active in Salesforce event. Recently attended Einstein Copilot workshop at Pune. This is my LinkedIn URL. So LinkedIn QR code. So you can feel free to connect with me. For future sessions, you can join the WhatsApp group. This is the QR code for that. And if you want to have one-to-one session with me, you can attend that by booking the slot on TopMate. And we have the recordings of most of the group sessions on the YouTube. So the YouTube channel name is Mock Interviews with Ankit Jain. So this is the URL and this is the QR code for that. So uh, this session, however, is possible only because like from our WhatsApp group, one participant has volunteered to share a few of the questions that they have faced during the technical consultant position with 3 years of experience at Salesforce. So this whatever the questions I'm mentioning here are based on that. I am means I can't double check that these questions were asked or not, but I would say the more questions you practice, the more better you would get to perform better in your interviews. So there were a few questions. Like my first one question that was there was around the abstract classes, interfaces, and virtual classes, and why I need to implement them in triggers. See, abstract class, what it does is like you have a class in which you can have zero or more means you can say prototypes of methods. Like you don't write the definition. I mean, you can have all the methods concrete, but still you can mark the class as abstract. So what we do is like abstract, but you cannot create an instance of abstract class. What I mean is like suppose I have like abstract sample. Now I cannot write this part, what I have selected that I can't do for abstract classes. You cannot create an instance of that.
Yeah, instance means you are talking about the object
Object,
instance.
yes. This is the object instance that was created in. This you
Okay.
cannot do with abstract classes, but you can do the reverse. Like you can have uh, another class and you can have it like this. This is possible.
Yeah, are you seeing the screen?
Uh,
Like we are only see that
We are
PPT.
only seeing
Uh,
that slide.
oh, sorry. I think like it's like just for the, okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so this is the one. So I'm just showcasing a simple example. We have more concrete examples related to the triggers in the slides. So I will show that as well. So abstract class, you can have either like even here I can have a normal method. I can write the definition of this. This is possible. And also it's possible like I just write. This is also possible. And I can write virtual so that I want the others to override this method. Or even I cannot would not mark it because it's a prototype. So whoever extends that one have to put the definition of this public abstract. I have a good example here. So it's like the means like I think you got the intent like how it could be. More better examples are there in the slide, so I would show it in there. So abstract class you can have just a signature and you can define it as abstract, like as I mentioned. It is not necessary like it should one method should be abstract or not. It is possible like it can have all the concrete methods only that abstract class. So what we do the scenario where we use abstract classes like the out of like say 5 methods, I want like uh, two methods. Water definition is provided in the beginning, I want to keep it as it is, but others definition I want means it. I want the flexibility that all people can have their own implementation of that. Like taking into example a payment system, you can say for payment, it's very simple. Like one person sends the money, other person receives the money. It's very simple. But what would happen is these are the concrete things that would happen. But the underneath mechanism, how that payment method would work, like it would be through UPI, through credit card, through debit card, all other different implementations that can happen around the payment. But what in the what rule it should follow? Like money should be deducted from one end and other person and it should be sent, or other person should be able to receive. So these two methods would happen for all of them, but how the payment would go, that everybody can have their own way of doing that. So this is one, I mean, I will show the example is in the next slide. Yeah, like this. So this is a trigger handler base class where like in the void run method I have mentioned like all the conditions are mentioned here and then they're calling in the empty methods of whatever are there. Like before insert, I can zoom it a little bit, like I can make it full. 1 minute, let me make it as insert. So this is just a sample trigger base class where the definition of run method is written, but all the other methods are marked as protected and virtual. Virtual means I am allowing it to be overridden by other classes, whoever are extending this class. Suppose I didn't write the word virtual and then other class would have extended the trigger handler base. They would not have been able to write that method definition by themselves. Whatever I'm saying is making sense, or you want me to elaborate on this more, because this is a very complex concept. So if you have any doubts, you can feel free to tell. I can pause the recording for a while as well. So here, this is the live example of this. Like we have marked the methods as protected, like whatever are the methods like which we want the others should write their own definition. We have marked it as virtual. So others, whenever they would be extending this trigger, they would have to override this method. So I'm creating a class out of it.
So Ankit, in Salesforce, they will expect us to write this code, or they will ask.
No. They won't ask you this.
Yes.
It is just for your understanding, like we have, I'm going.
like as interview perspective, like what we need to tell about
You have
abstract.
to tell them like what is the concept around abstract class. Like abstract class, it is for like it is written in so that you have one common implementation. That you will have that, and all the other methods which you want, like you can mark them. You can just give the prototype, or you can just put the empty definition of that, and whichever class that extends that abstract keyword would have to abstract class would have to write their own definition of that.
Okay. And we can give the example, the trigger framework.
Yeah, you can tell them like there are few trigger framework which uses the abstract class concept as well. See here, it is marked as virtual, that's why you're able to extend this. And now I marked it as protected and virtual, so this can extend and I can write my own definition. If suppose I have not written it virtual, see non-protected method, yeah, this also I will just mark it as. And here if I press it, save again, I can't extend the class if I don't use the, see, you got the error. Non-virtual and non-abstract type cannot be extended. So virtual keyword, what it does is like, again, going on the same thing. Abstract class, it's clear. Now for interface means interfaces, like you have just the abstract methods. None of the definition is mentioned inside that. And it forces like who is implementing that interface have to write the definition. This also example I have will cover that. And this is the virtual keyword, like where we have to override a concrete method, we use virtual keyword. So here, like in our example, the default definition of before insert was there and with empty data, but I have wanted it to be overridden with the actual one. So what I did is I extended this trigger handler trigger base class, wrote my own definition. So because of this, now what would happen, wherever this run method would be written in the trigger class, I would not have to write the definition again and again. When a class is extended by this trigger handler base, this run method would be available in all its classes which have extended this class. Is it clear? Concept is very much simple. This definition would be common across all the trigger classes, trigger handler classes, right or wrong?
Yeah, right.
So why should all of them write the definition again and again? So the common logic, I had written it here in the trigger handler base. But and also I wanted them the skeleton of how the method should look like. So I wrote the definition, I marked it as protected and virtual so that all of you means all the uh, trigger means whoever extends this trigger handler base can extend this one and provide their own definition of this before insert, before update, before delete, and so on. So the method signature would remain consistent. My code reusability also increased, and I got the flexibility to write my own definition. So this is the main objective around the abstract classes, the virtual keyword. I hope things are getting clear. Or is it like being too much complex?
So Ankit, like when we need to write a logic for before insert and any event, we need to write that particular code into these methods.
Yes, you will need to extend this one. You have to write it here. Like you would need to extend this trigger handler base and write your own definition. And here you can mention it override, that you are overriding the original definition.
Okay.
Others, are you able to get it?
Yeah.
Hi, Ankit.
Yeah.
My question is, if we have written virtual for the class, like on the class level, do we have to mention it for the method as well? Or it's
Method you will have to write it because I have written this, put in the empty definition. Let I will give you example here. Like I wrote the suppose, like I wanted this to be also the definition should means it should have asked me, like let me just mark it as virtual. Okay, yeah. And you are saying like I should not, if I had not used virtual, what would happen? And I would mark it as public as well. Now what would have happened is like you would get an error saying like no, I have to write the method, like I didn't copy paste that method definition. See, you got the error. because the definition is already available, if you want to override, you will have to use the keyword virtual.
Okay.
So I will have to write it as virtual. This protected, you can use public as well, protected as well. It's for safety, we use protected. Normally in managed package, you will see the better use case around these access specifiers, but this is the high level concept. I know.
What's the difference between virtual and abstract? I mean, abstract is also used.
Abstract is like, I will show you that as well. Yeah. Abstract is like, see, it will still give me error. Because once I declare method as abstract, I have to provide, whenever I'm extending this class, I will have to provide a definition of this method. In the interest of time, like I will have to go to other questions and we can have a separate session around these abstract keywords. I was actually thinking that this is a complex concept, so it might consume too much time as well. So I know it's not been full justice to this topic. But as a part of like managing the time, I give like means the most time that could have been possible in this session to this question. But we can have a separate session around that as well. This is an example using interface, like in almost all the trigger scenarios which we have practiced. I have used this one, like we just provided the sample, we just provided the prototypes. Like this would be the signature, this would be the return type. And all the whoever extends this trigger handler would have to provide the definition of this. 1 minute. I think the full code was not coming up, so I had written it here. I don't have an example of this. Like what would happen is like it's pretty much straightforward, like extend this one and write the definition of this. Like pretty much in every trigger handler scenario we have done this. So interface is like just a contract, like you have to follow the rules or follow these whatever is the method and signature and method name and signature name, and then provide your own definition of that. So this was around this interface. So whenever like if they ask you to explain about this topic, I think you would be able to give them at least a high level idea around like what is the use case. Like abstract class, I write the definition, like common definition in one class. Others I leave it to others. Other means specific people means specific definition to the specific classes. Like I write the definition, common definition in trigger handler base, and other what are the methods definition would be needed in. All the other classes like account would have their own definition of before insert, before update. Obviously, the signature would remain same, but the logic would differ. Interface, I just want to provide the skeleton, like these are the rules that have to be imposed whenever you're implementing that. Virtual class means I have a concrete class, but I still want like others can have their own version of that. Like suppose virtual class, the example is like in most of the trigger frameworks, like they have ability to do bypassing of means we have the own definition of doing the bypass, but instead of that way that which a trigger handler trigger framework is giving in, I want to have my own way of bypassing it. Like I want to bypass it for all the system administrators. I don't want to like the logic to be handled by the whatever custom settings or anything that the trigger framework was doing in. So in such scenarios, if the method was marked as virtual, I would be able to provide do this thing. So this was around this question like abstract classes, interface, and virtual classes, and what is the use cases and triggers. Next question is around like if I do an third-party API call, how do we know the status of this asynchronous operation? See, this question everybody has their own version of this answer. So what my thought process says is like, see, if I have to know like what is happening in the other system, one way is through polling. Like after some interval, I will have to do the API call again to know get that response. Second is via promises. Like after a call is being made, a synchronous operation is happening in, I get it returns a promise to me. Like dot, then it can be async and await. So through that, I can get the API response. And so I will know like this is the now the asynchronous operation is done. And now whatever I want, I can do the calculation after in the dot then or the await method callback, whatever whenever whatever I get after the operation is being completed. So these are the two ways like through which we get the status of the asynchronous operation. Any question in this?
Okay, so can we store that status of asynchronous apex into some custom object for tracking purpose? That one also we can tell.
See, you can store that, but for storing that information, you'll have to follow either of those two mechanisms only.
Okay.
It's the same as
And,
your queuable. It is same as your queuable. Like you would do the API call, but you will need to know like either like when that operation you will have to do the query on async apex async apex jobs, or you will have to wait for the finalizer to get called, and then you will know like this queuable has executed. So it works the similar way. Polling means every time after few intervals you're hitting that to know what has happened. And second is like you get a callback, like you use promises like dot then or async await and check like what is the now the operation is complete. Now whatever I want, I can do that calculation after this.
what you tell about the polling? I'm not getting it.
Polling means like after some interval, I'm keeping on checking. Imagine like your manager asks you to do some work. So it's not complete, you're halfway through. So after every 10 or 15 minutes, he pings you like, what is the status of this? What is the status of this? So it is called as polling mechanism.
Okay. For that one, we need to implement for that one, which thing we can use here.
See, you can have like set interval is the one method that is available in JavaScript.
Yeah,
So
got it.
So after some interval, this method would get executed all the time. So you will get the response after like this callback is executed.
Yeah, there is a JavaScript function that you are saying just set interval for that
Yeah.
particular time, that particular.
It would get yeah, and you can apply the boundary condition. Like once you receive the response, then it should break.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
I hope this was clear.
Yes. Yes.
The next is around like CPU timeout error, like whatever means the means whatever question that I was means got it. It was around like they have the other external system where they have stored different addresses. So whenever the pin code is being entered in, they would search that exact like the address, what are the different addresses that are available, and in this process they are getting CPU timeout limit. So what exactly have happened means CPU time limit would have happened here because that API call, actually it's not a CPU time limit you won't get in here, but instead what you will get here is like if it is the API request is taking time, you would get call out exception, not the CPU time limit. What I'm assuming like there would be somewhat complex calculation that would be happening in, and due to which the CPU is consuming more than 10 seconds in synchronous and more than 60 seconds in asynchronous. So what happens during this process is like whenever the CPU time limit is reached, you don't have any control over that. That is like unhandled exception. But what you can do is avoid multiple automations on the same object. Follow the best practices. Like there are like various mechanisms around that. Like I have provided a link of the Apex servers. One important part is like you can't log those exception. That is the worst part.
So Ankit, like Apex CPU time limit we get generally when our Salesforce operation
Takes more
takes
time.
more than 10 seconds, I guess. 10 seconds or
Correct.
um,
10 seconds for synchronous, 60 seconds for
yeah.
asynchronous.
So, but how it's coming in like when we are hitting the API from LWC?
That's what I'm saying in like the scenario that was mentioned in I'm said it with the very beginning. Like technically you should, if it is happening, like you wouldn't get a CPU time limit exception. Instead you should get a call out exception.
Call out exception.
Yes. But I mean, I told like at the beginning, like I'm assuming like there's some complex calculation after the API call out as well,
Okay,
due to
in
which
Salesforce you are telling after integration is
yeah,
coming.
yes. I'm assuming that one since it's talked about that, so that's what I'm saying in. So I'm assuming that complex calculation is there in Apex already. So in that scenario, what should be done? I'm saying about that. So the best means what you can do is like you can use this debug log and you can change the different perspective of that. Like in our regular debug log, this one it works horizontally, but you can also change the perspective, and what you can do is like you can get the seconds like each of the portion was get executed, like how much time did flow take, how much time did trigger take. So all those things are available here.
So again, in that particular Apex transaction, in particular that thread, we need to just analyze the debug log. Based on that, we need to take a decision. Like we have need to.
Correct. And these four best practices you can follow. Like
Hmm.
normally what happens is like you have multiple automations. Yeah, it's around the same thing, like one trigger per object, avoid process builder, one flow per object, then avoid recursion, avoid nested loops. So it's more or less drilling down. Yeah, again it means whatever I mentioned, like multiple automation. Like what happens is like your transition is not stopping, like once it is done, again you have something on that, again it's kind of nesting in at some level. So in such situations you encounter the CPU time limit exception. I have seen like even if these practices are therein, sometimes like the code that is written is too much complex and it actually hits the CPU time limit error. So you will have to have multiple asynchronous. You can break that into multiple asynchronous jobs and then you can give it a try. But there's no concrete way of logging these errors inside of Salesforce, like the custom logger, like whatever we use the approach for other exceptions. So this was around that. The next is like there are 5 platform events and the third party says like only 3 are received. So how do we identify that? So what we have here is like this is new to me as well. So we have a object called platform event usage metric. So through which what we can say do is like you do the query, like which are the events that have been successfully delivered, how many have been published. So here usage type you can mention in, it is like an enum. So you can put the start date and end date and get that information. So other than that, like your third part means you don't have anything like you could use to actually identify those specifically. This is the only stuff that is available, which I figured out on the internet. I know it's not been much into granular details around this platform event usage because there's very limited content that is available on the internet around this. The next is like undelete trigger. Why do we need that? So what happens is like after the delete means the data is deleted, we have we try to uh, restore that information, we get this callback. And why do we have that? Because suppose you're doing a count, like on an account, like there are two contacts. You deleted one of those contact. Now during after it has been restored, like someone restores it, then again the value becomes 2. Once it was deleted and you wrote the logic, like it would be only 1. The count has been updated to 1. But now like when it's undeleted, that if that information is not updated, it would cause like wrong information to be available inside of Salesforce. So to overcome those, we use the undelete trigger. Mostly that is the use case we come across. Due to time constraint, like I was able to only cover these questions. We'll have another session, a short session, might be in the next 2-3 days, where we'll cover more questions around that. So this, you can consider this as the part 1, and there's another like 4-5 questions that will be there in the part 2.
Can you share these slides, Ankit, on the email? That will be really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, just like these answers are just like whatever explanation I have done on my own, like through various sources that are available on the internet. So you can feel free to revalidate them, and these are dependent upon the current API version that is or current functionality is available. So there's a small chance that in future like these things might be updated.